Welcome, welcome, welcome into another edition of Steak, Bourbon and Sports, along with Jeremy Mandel, who needs no introduction. I am Ari Temkin.
Usually you have some kind of good adjective for me that I have to argue with you about.
Yeah, usually I do, and I usually come up with them on the fly. And in this case,
Wow.
I had a writer's block in some capacity, although it kind of was like
Creative.
an after the fact thing where it's
Okay.
yeah.
But
The
here I am.
the incomparable Jeremy Mandel.
That'll work.
And we are so excited today to be joined by the co-founders of the Nashville Barrel Company, who, if you are streaming this on YouTube, which I would urge you to do that, go subscribe to our page. I'm holding up one of their bottles of rye, which Jeremy has sent to me from the 21 Kings group. Yeah, everybody's holding them up. This is fantastic. Nashville Barrel Company. We're talking with Michael Hines, James Davenport, and Casey Kostrebski, the co-founders of the Nashville Barrel Company. Guys, how's it going?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having us on.
It's one of those things where it's like you ask three people
Yeah.
one question. It's like who do we?
And we're all drinking too, so that doesn't help.
So, what is Nashville Barrel Company?
James, go ahead.
Well, we're a company here out of Nashville. We have barrels, and we'll sell them. We don't have a still. We don't have a secret recipe that we found in our grandmother's cabinet, like Mike would say. We just look for good product that's already been aged, still in the barrel, that we can get our hands on, and then let it age, put it out whenever it's ready.
So, you got your tagline is "What barrel are you picking?" And normally, individuals can't just go and pick a barrel and then have it bottled. Liquor stores do that, traditionally known as store picks. So, how are you able to sell barrels to people?
Well, we technically don't sell any barrels to people. We work with distributors, and some of those distributors, can sell to end users depending on what state they're in. But you're right that even stores are actually having a hard time to do barrel picks right now. And as the bourbon boom happened, a lot of stores that used to get allocations and get barrel picks of Four Roses or any of the big guys are losing that ability and losing those picks. So that's kind of where we started. Is that we're all bourbon lovers and bourbon geeks. We used to always love getting together and having a group of guys go pick a barrel, and that was becoming harder to do because stores don't give up their allocations or they weren't getting them. So kind of how we started, we realized there's a niche in the market where we could actually provide barrel picks for our friends and in stores.
So the number one question I get from people that listen to this show, almost always when we're doing this, I'm drinking a store pick or a group pick from somewhere. And the top question I get is, well, that's great. And the story that you tell about how you pick the barrel and all that, that's great. But I want to do that. How do I get to pick my own barrel of whiskey? And usually my answer is kind of convoluted because the law says basically it has to be convoluted. But if I want to work with Nashville Barrel Company, I'm drinking it right now. It's outstanding. How do I contact somebody? How does that work?
So right now we've only been we've done one run. We've got stores in Nashville and Middle Tennessee that carry it. Obviously, there's some clubs like yourself that have picked barrels. We're working right now on getting distro in some bigger states. That way, some on-premise accounts and retail stores can actually carry it and sell it. There's if you go through some companies in DC, you can reach out to us and we'll get you in touch with them because they can actually help you get a barrel of Nashville Barrel Company if you're in one of the states that they're allowed to. So that's kind of the answer is still pretty the same. It depends on where you are and what barrels are available and if the distributor DC distributor will sell to you.
Well, and I'll amend your answer if you'll let me, because we've talked about said DC distributor on this show. If that's something you're interested in, message us on Twitter or Instagram or however you get in touch with Facebook, and I can connect you with said DC distributor.
You can also if you go to the website, nashvillebarrelco.com, there's also a contact us, and you can kind of see some of the barrels that we have in, and you can learn a little more information. But our whole goal is to try to be able to actually get barrels to end users and to groups and clubs as easily as we can.
So how did this start? How did you guys come together to do this? And I know I was talking with Casey a little bit before, and he said, you've been working on this for 2 years, but you really launched in May. So it's been a very short amount of time. Obviously, there's a lot of background work on this, but where'd the idea come from? And just kind of give us the genesis of this.
Well, kind of as I was saying earlier, barrel picks and bourbon got really hot, and Jeremy could probably tell you, and I'm sure everyone out there listening would know that, certain bottles you used to be able to walk into the liquor store and get, and you just can't get anymore. I was doing some charity barrels and some other things, and we all kind of realized that, friends would call us up and go, "We want to go do a barrel pick. Can we go get us a Russell's?" And it doesn't work like that. So we kind of, it was almost an aha moment. What if we could buy some barrels just so actually we could pick them ourselves, right? Let's just say we have friends and groups locally, and we'll say, heck, we've got a couple bucks. Let's just buy some barrels, and then we'll do our own barrel pick. So that's kind of how the idea started, and kind of it really blossomed and just exploded, on the grassroots campaign.
Yes. So
I think also real quick that Mike didn't really mention is this idea has probably transformed no less than 45 times during the 2 years. It's always been anchored to the barrel picks, and that's what we wanted. But whether it was the process, whether it was the type of barrels, whether it was the age, whether, all the nuances go into that experience, like the amount of hours we've all had on the phone together and just changing this business plan and letting them morph, it's pretty amazing to finally see it come to fruition now. Extremely happy with how it's going and where it's going. But yeah, I mean, this literally just started with some, Mike called us up and said, "Hey, what do you guys think about this?" And it really, it's been a journey, and just the change from probably our initial idea and what it's morphed into now is pretty cool to see.
So you guys, clearly when we talked to you about this, you obviously love the experience of what you're doing, and you're passionate about barrel picks. What is it about barrel picks that's something that you want to build a company around?
I'll take this one if you want me to, unless you want it, James. I'll take it.
I'll throw a little bit out there just from my background. I used to be in retail for 8+ years now, and just recently got out. But getting a barrel of certain things is a little harder to do than others. If you're talking about some more your premium brands, like Willet, that's a hard barrel to get. But we wanted to give access to people that haven't had it before on something that's a good product. We're not going to put out something that we're not going to drink ourselves. Sorry.
I think it
sure.
boils down to, if you make, let's just say, a batch of bourbon, you distill it, and you have enough to fill 20 barrels. The exact same stuff goes into 20 barrels that were made by the same company on the same day, and you put it away for 7 years. Every one of those barrels is still going to taste different. There's still going to be nuances. Some may come out sweet, some may come out smoky. You don't know. There's no way to tell. And that difference in variance is kind of what we're anchoring to, because everybody has different flavors that they like and enjoy. Some people, like we were talking before this started recording, some people like that dill flavor on rye and some don't. And you're going to get those variances, and, based on whatever club, group, whoever, store's picking, they're going to have that ability to really more customize the product versus that, like the large companies out there going for more of a homogeneous taste. We are completely reverse of that. We want weird stuff. We want off profile. We want on profile too. But we just want the variety there to make it accessible to people that want it and people that appreciate it. Just those small variances make a big difference when you're drinking a good glass of bourbon.
How surprised are you guys with, how this is taken off? Are you surprised?
Let me jump
Yes.
in. It's been the last few weeks has been kind of a surreal moment, if you will. As I think Casey was kind of saying that it keeps morphing. What we really started off to do, and we're kind of letting the business take us where it wants to go, versus us forcing it to be in this, a square into a peg. James has been fielding most of the people wanting to pick barrels, and he's the point of contact, so he could probably shed a little more light on some of the craze.
Yeah,
So,
I wake up
James,
every
have you just been
morning.
bombarded?
Yeah, I wake up every morning to somebody new, which is totally fine. We'll put you on the list. Whenever we have something available, we can definitely get to you. But it's been pretty crazy. Definitely didn't see it going as crazy as it is, but it's a good thing.
So what's that process like?
So, like Mike was saying, you could reach out through the website and then get in contact with us or the DC distro. And then, I either schedule a pick on site where you come to Nashville, we go and have an experience and pick a barrel, or, we can actually send out samples as well. However that.
So I don't
needs
have to go to Nashville. You'll send me some number of different barrels and I can pick that way.
We can get samples to you, yes, for a barrel selection. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of times, a lot of people like to kind of come and actually do a barrel pick. A lot of people, it's amazing, have never done a barrel pick, and there's just something about being in a room full of barrels and saying that's the one I want.
Right.
Which and if you've done it after you've done it a few times, like if you're like a seasoned pro like Jeremy, he probably wouldn't mind doing it by samples. It's neat, and depending on if you have a good group of guys, it's a pretty fun male bonding experience too.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough that I've been able to pick. I have no idea what the number is, but multiple barrels. Always better if you can actually go on site to actually do it. And I don't know if that means that the whiskey's better or not. It probably doesn't, but there is no more fun day than a day where you and your friends get together and try through a bunch of barrels of whiskey and decide which one's your favorite and tell your friends why he's stupid for his favorite. There's nothing better than that. So I would encourage anybody who's going to be contacting you guys to actually physically go to Nashville. There's nothing, and Nashville's fun as hell. So it's a great trip, and it's kind of funny to me that are you guys the first real barrel pick that can happen in Nashville?
No, there's a few others. Well, maybe. Probably.
Y'all are the first one that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
So go to Nashville, have some hot chicken.
We're the first one that matters.
So we've talked about barrels, and this first run was 7-year rye. What do you guys have like long term? I mean, do you do bourbon? Do you do other stuff? I mean, tell me what's the plan as far as that's concerned.
So these 7-year ryes. Go ahead.
I choose Casey.
Here, I'll take it. So these, okay, that's fine. So these 7-year ryes are ready now. Like they're phenomenal. It's that 7, 8, 9-year ranges of some of these Indiana ryes. That's my preference, and I think that's why we're getting such great feedback right now. Now, like I said, we've been going for 2 years. We've been buying stock of other stuff. We have some 6-year plus bourbon sitting down. We just don't think it's ready yet. We're playing with rum. We bought some 5-year rum. We just rebarreled into some bourbon barrels and rye barrels about a year ago. We're letting those sit. I mean, we're bourbon and rye whiskey guys. That's kind of where we came from. That's what we'll anchor to. But we do have visions of really trying to make this other liquors and, other interesting things like barrel-aged gins. And I don't know how big that portion of our business will be just because, that's not where we came from either. But we find it kind of interesting and see what we can come up with. And I'll let James kind of finish this thought because I kind of view him as our mad scientist. He's the one that has a crazy palate. He's going to come up with some crazy ideas. And then, probably honestly, he's going to let him run loose and see what kind of weird things he can develop, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like AC said, 7-year rise that we have right now, we're going to watch them age. We're not going to get rid of all of our stock on that. But we've definitely got bourbon. We've got some Canadian rye as well. And we're going to definitely look at finishing some things and, aging stuff in some fun, different barrels. Like he was talking about gins and, maybe doing some wine cast finishes, a bunch of different things, and just see where it goes. If it's not something we want to put out or, we'll drink, we'll just take it as a loss and, bite the bullet on it. But we're definitely going to try a bunch of fun and interesting stuff moving forward.
Is that what James attracted you to this opportunity? It's kind of the ability to be that mad scientist?
Yeah, it's a pretty neat thing between all of us because we work very well together on all sides, and this is definitely an opportunity that had to jump on. Never had that much freedom, so it's really neat.
That's cool.
So if I'm picking through barrels with you guys, by virtue of the fact that you're allowing me to taste it, I guess you guys have already sort of pre-picked it to say that it's ready. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. If we let you taste it, you can pretty much buy it. That's how we go. We're not going to put anything out. You can't. Now, if we're experimenting with something, we'll let you sample that, but that's not going to be a part.
You can't
of
buy the barrel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of those things. We've been buying barrels for a while, and our first barrels we got in, we're like, man, it's good, but it's just not ready yet. So that's why you didn't see us last year. It's one of those things that James has a pretty good reputation, and a couple me and Casey have picked a couple good barrels ourselves. So it was one of those that we didn't want to come out and just put something out in the market that we weren't proud of. So it's been very capital intensive just because obviously buying stuff and then realizing that you could do a money grab or you could really just do it. We've kind of decided, and the goal from the very beginning wasn't to really, make this a business per se to do what we're doing. But it kind of just turned out that way. We really just wanted to pick barrels and offer the best things we could find with our connections.
So what you just said, I kind of geek out about this stuff because I'm drinking some of your 7-year rye right now. So
me too.
You had these barrels last year and decided you didn't want to sell them. So what changed in the last year from what was there a year ago to this excellent rye that I'm drinking now?
Well, in all its full transparency, what you're drinking now, we actually had that for probably 6 months before it was it. We actually purchased some other younger bourbon, some other ryes. That
Gotcha.
What you're specifically seeing is once we kind of got that, we knew it was pretty damn close to being ready. So
Okay.
some of the first barrels we purchased, though, were not the ones you're drinking now, which is kind of more impressive because we basically let's just say like you take money out of your wallet or your bank account, right? And you go, cool, I'm going to go buy something. And then you buy it and you go, well, cool, I guess I'm just going to put this in storage for a few years because I'm not ready to play with it. You can only do that so many times before you go, I'm out of powder.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the acquisition process like? How do you figure out what you want to buy? I mean, you mentioned rum, bourbon. I mean, what's sort of the acquisition process like?
So we get samples shipped in from brokers, or we talk to distilleries, so on and so forth. Mike, Casey, and I were all talking earlier today. Mike just got some samples in of some new stuff that I'm going to be trying tomorrow. I think he tried it tonight, and Casey will be trying this weekend or in the near future. So we get samples from groups of barrels, lots of barrels. We've kicked out more than we bought. There's just certain things they don't hit where we want to be, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be going down the path that we want.
How does that process play out? Like, do you guys all try it and then talk? I mean, is it like a 2 out of 3 wins? I mean, how does that process? Take me inside the meeting room with you guys.
Yeah, so for the most part, I don't think we've ever had a 2 out of 3. Usually it's pretty unanimous. Sometimes we might disagree sort of on strategy as far as, that's good, we should buy that. And it's like, well, it is good, but I don't think, the price point, we could be able to really stand behind it. So we all pretty much mesh on what we like. You're not going to see any Sweetens Cove come out of us in the next, in the near future. There's some things that we just kind of, we decided that we're not going to go down certain paths unless Tom Brady's listening and wants to compete with Sweetens Cove. We know exactly where we can get that same stuff.
So Sweetens Cove, for the folks that don't know, that's the new Peyton Manning whiskey that they are charging a super premium price for. And I haven't gotten to try any of it yet. And
Are
I
they a
get
distillery?
to say this. They're not a distillery. They're buying their barrels from Dickel in Tennessee. And I get to say this because I'm not in the business, and everything about it looks like it's going to be hot garbage. And they're charging at least double what
$199 a bottle.
Okay, so yeah, double. If you think a good barrel pick of whatever will cost you in and around, I don't know, $80 to $100, they're double that for whiskey that I think is going to suck. And I'll bite the bullet at some point and try it on this show, but I'll tell you, I'm not excited about that.
Jeremy, I think you brought up a good thing. I think you brought a good thing about the price point. That's something else that Mike, James, and myself really want to try to, I guess, hit the right part. And like, we don't want to be. There's a lot of new brands that come out there, and they have a cool, fancy label. And I'm not just talking about Sweetens Cove. There's a bunch of them. You can see them on liquor stores everywhere.
Right.
And they're trying to pull these like really high MSRPs, and that's frustrated us. And when we see it, we're like, what in the world are they doing? Why are they doing that? And we really want to try to stay in a fair range. Obviously, we want to make money, but we also want to make it fair because the world we're playing in are more that bourbon niche world where people, they are price sensitive to a certain extent. But we want to be fair about it and make them feel like they are getting a good quality product at a good price too, and they feel good about it. Like, we don't want to push that MSRP, and that's why we've turned down some barrels. We've tried some reasonable barrels, but it may have required an extremely high MSRP because they could have been old with low fill, or they were just expensive barrels. Like, that's a hard place to play, and we're going to try our best, just unless we get just something phenomenal in. We may feel comfortable doing it, but yeah, we're trying to not do that.
Well, if the whiskey's good, people will pay for it. But if you slap limited edition on a bottle and charge $250 and it sucks, that's going to be the last time you're able to do it.
Right.
You're right. You can only do that once, all right? You can only do that once. So, one thing is as we look at this in our pricing, I realize that I think we just hate money, and that's why we have a fair price, because maybe one day we'll actually get to eat off this business.
What excites you guys about this?
Everything. Everything about it.
What excites me?
Honestly,
I'm in Louisville. So James and Mike are in Nashville. I'm in Louisville. Hopefully, eventually in Nashville. But what excites me is being anchored to the city of Nashville. I think that presents massive opportunity in so many different ways, not just through the barrel pick avenue. There's a lot more options there that we can tap into and really make this something special. Like we don't just want to have a label sitting on shelves like that. We do have a long-term strategy that we want to execute on. And I mean, the thing I'm probably most excited about is hopefully next year James's hard seltzer. So we really want James to come out with this beautiful hard seltzer brand and capitalize on that market. So yeah.
Yeah, it's disconcerting.
In all seriousness though, that Nashville market, I think, has so many different avenues that we can play in and deliver quality product in a really cool, unique fashion. And that's what excites me, is being anchored to that city.
One, it's such a great city to have that for. I mean, one of the barrel picking was like designed for bachelor parties, except previously, if you were going to do that, your bachelor party would have to be in like Louisville or Bardstown or something. And once you're done with the barrel pick, there's not that much going on. But man, picking a barrel in Nashville could just be a small part of a really amazing trip.
Yeah. What excites me since I already live in Nashville, being anchored in Nashville doesn't excite me like Casey. I think what really excites me is just kind of seeing where, this alcohol and spirits industry goes, and just being able to kind of be part of that group. What's the next hot thing, and can we actually be able to provide that? What's the next challenge? So as bourbon is kind of hot right now, but vodka was hot 10 years ago, and then what's going to be hot next? Rum? I mean, who knows? Mezcal. So just being in a kind of a, we're small and nimble, so we can actually, that's why we're experimenting with stuff as well and trying different spirits, because it'd be cool to be able to just offer this and to picks that typically people don't do, right? People don't do certain spirits, and it'd be cool just to be able to expand that and kind of be a disruptor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Last week we had Luke Castle on from Bourbon and Banter. One of the things that we talked about was
the future of bourbon.
Is all of the interest in bourbon and whiskey, is it building a bubble? And what the heck to Ari and I know, but you guys are now officially in the business. So what do you think is the future? I mean, there's so much money being pushed into this part of the industry. What do you think's coming down the pike for the world of whiskey here in the next few years?
Well, me
I'll
personally,
speak to just an observation I made. Let me just speak to an observation I made this week, and Mike, you can finish it, or you can go to your thoughts. So, everybody knows about Buffalo Trace's massive expansion and all these different places. There's tons of whiskey hitting the market. Everybody just thinks this stuff can be on the shelves everywhere. And this week, a friend sent me a picture. It was Weller 12 in France with a hang tag in French. And I think that's a big glimpse into the world of whiskey. They're like the big boys, the big players in this market are looking at international expansion. Like this American market is big. There's a lot of interest in it, and it's still growing. But I think whiskey has an opportunity to really, and bourbon has an opportunity to really make inroads in a ton of other countries. There's so many unpenetrated areas. I see the growth going there personally. That's just me though. Mike, you might be able to speak to it.
It's again, I thought that Nashville 5 years ago, when I was looking at home prices, I was like, there's no going up. It's like, there's no way it's worth that. And, a year later, I was like, my wife's like, are you going to buy a condo downtown? Yeah, I'm like, there's no way. It's got to be at the top of the bubble. Fast forward a few years after that, and the prices had doubled, and here I am sitting in a condo. So, when you look at other people that have more roots or have more, power in this, you see Sazerac, you even see Willett, you see Wilderness Trail, you see these guys throwing down rick houses every 3 months. So when you look over there going, if there's a bubble, these guys that have been doing this forever don't seem to think so, because they're on the front end of that demand, right? I mean, they're seeing from, what states or countries are buying more. So as much as we've all cried bubble for 5 years, I'd have to look over at some of our buddies in the industry, and they're ramping up more than they ever. So, who knows? But who knows?
And James, I don't know if you wanted to add anything on that before I...
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. From the retail side, I don't think it was going anywhere from where I came from. Back in the very first time I ever saw a demand for bourbon. It was like right when Old Charter 10 was being discontinued. And I was at a store here right after I got back from the military. And a guy came in and he said, "I'll take every bit that you have and I'll take every bit that you can order." And I looked at him like he was crazy. It's just Old Charter 10, right? I mean, that's when Willet, big boy bottles are sitting on the shelf, Elmer T. Lee, case stacked on the floor. I mean, you can find JPS on the shelf, all types of stuff back then. But the guy came in and bought that Old Charter 10, and I'll never forget it. Right then, I was like, this is definitely going to go somewhere. And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon, considering the consumers that are in it now. Scotch used to be just a certain demographic. Only certain people drank Scotch, and that was a huge thing. Well, now everybody's drinking whiskey. Everybody's drinking bourbon. Everybody's drinking rye. Young people, old people, men, women. It doesn't matter. If you're of age, it seems like everybody's drinking whiskey. So I don't know when that bubble is gonna burst, but it seems to be doing all right.
And I think it speaks to the variance of the liquid itself too. I mean, the spirit is so highly variable in whiskey versus if you do make a Grey Goose or a vodka. Like, there's only so many times you can distill vodka and you get a different flavor. I mean, I just think that it's so unique and people can find things that they anchor to and like and enjoy. And I think it's no different like the craft beer market. I mean, the world's getting finickier, and I believe like spirits should follow that path.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's bourbon to me is like the endless chase. It's like if you drink bourbon, you're just on this endless chase for the perfect bottle, and you may never find it, but you're going to constantly look for it. And that's, I mean, vodka is the perfect example of like vodka's vodka, right? Like you can get high end and low end, but it's vodka at the end of the day. Whereas bourbon and rye, I mean, it's just there's so much difference in the taste. It's incredible. And then obviously the other variables too, not just where it's being distilled, where the barrel is, all that kind of. I mean, it's all plays into it. And the other thing too is, guys like you, where it's not creating a greater, there's not a higher volume of distilleries, but rather more people buying from the distilleries, and that I think is really healthy for the industry too. Is because the distilleries create, they're creating the inventory, but the demand is created by the people, and if there's more people that are in companies that are buying these barrels up, then there's less of an opportunity for a bubble there, I guess, if I explain that properly.
Well, what did Luke say?
Well, Luke said it was a bubble 5 years ago, so I don't know that what Luke says matters.
It's like Jim Cramer, right? Jim Cramer, buy,
Mad money.
sell.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Luke's been calling bubble for 5 years, so eventually he's going to be right. It's one of those,
I think he just figured consumption would either stagnate or decline, and it hasn't.
Well, one thing I'm seeing here in Nashville, I'm not sure if you're seeing it in Texas or anywhere else, is we have all these little niche bars popping up in boutique hotels, and they're all speakeasy driven. So we're seeing these little, dim light bars, and everyone's got a Manhattan and an old fashioned, and they're really going for that, pre-prohibition or that 50s, kind of theme. That's been really popular, kind of growing up in some of these,
totally
boutique places. So obviously, when you have, Onpremise, a place like that, they actually consume a lot of bottles.
Right.
So, you have whole bars, and their biggest go-to is a bourbon for an old fashioned. I don't know. It seems like millennials also, are kind of liking that vibe, right?
Totally.
Well, it's no coincidence that the bourbon boom kind of coincided with the craft cocktail boom.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it's definitely hand in hand. I mean, what's funny is there's a bar here in Nashville, and it's the most famous probably honky tonk in the world, and it's called Tootsie's. And James probably would know the numbers, but when you hear of how many beers they sell in a single day during CMA, like our fanfare, it's like 60,000 beers a day, right, James? Does that sound right?
2 trailer truckloads. They have to restock like halfway.
That's amazing.
Unreal.
That's
insane.
Per day. So if you look at that, you're like, well, wow. I mean, they literally become the biggest beer purchaser in Tennessee, and those numbers carry. So When you look at stuff like that, on-premise definitely is definitely driving, I think, the scarcity, but the demand.
Well, and I don't know if it's just anecdotal, or maybe I just wasn't noticing it before, but you just go to more bars and see better bourbon on the shelf than you used to. I mean,
Oh,
you
I see.
Yeah, it used to be Jack or Jim.
right.
Well, my wife and I were talking about that a few months ago, and I was like, "Babe, you remember when all they had was Jack or Basil Hayden?"
Basil
And
Hayden,
she'd be
right.
like, "Well, no," she'd be like, "No, Mike, that was you were in college and that's all you could afford, so you never looked for anything else."
Right.
So I don't know, maybe yeah.
Right. Maybe it's just right. Maybe it's just that we didn't notice it. But I feel
Yeah.
like I don't know. I mean, again, it's hard to know for sure. But I do feel like at least the inventory for bars for bourbon is better than it used to be. It's like it used to be just Woodford Reserve or Basil Hayden's, and now
Yeah.
I mean you get it. Depends on where you go. Obviously, some places just have Woodford, and it's like okay, I'll pass then. But
Yeah. Or I mean, it's again, you hit the jackpot if you get a Blanton's, right? Am I right, Jeremy?
Oh yeah, only left-facing horses though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Out of the microwave.
Yeah.
So you guys are buying for Nashville Barrel Company. I know the first run came from an Indiana distillery, but that's not exclusively where you buy from, right? Or is it just from whoever's making whiskey and willing to sell it? How does that part work?
So there's definitely connections. James and myself have been kind of doing bourbon, I guess you could say, for several years, and so part of it is we have Kentucky stuff, we have Indiana stuff. Also working on some new make. Some of the guys that are actually distilleries are friends of James and myself, so we're trying to leverage and kind of sweet talk into some special barrels that obviously we're not allowed to talk about.
Sure.
But how about this? Indiana is not our sole provider.
So when you're doing contract distilling like that, when there's distillers that probably we've heard of that are now doing new make of something that's going to end up in one of your bottles, is it aging on their property, your property? Where is this stuff?
We keep everything where it is.
Okay.
For a few reasons. Once again, even our friends have asked, do you want to distill your own stuff? And we're like, not a chance. We're not smart enough. We don't claim to be, some, great grandfather's pappy was a moonshiner. We don't have that. So we don't plan on distilling. And once again, we're basically leaving barrels where they're at the distilleries, because obviously if we like their product, we know that the environment that they stay at has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, if you're going to do a good job distilling, there's got to be a chemical engineer somewhere. And I feel like, maybe I'm judging, but I don't feel like there's one on this podcast right now. Are you a chemical engineer?
No.
I know a little bit about chemicals and stuff. I was on a submarine for 5 years.
Were you? Okay.
You're in the Navy?
I got a little bit there. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay.
But no, like what Mike was saying, we're also coming up with some fun stuff to do with other distilleries as well, like our own mash bills, our own recipes, and actually go in there and cooking with instead of just contracting it out and saying, hey, this is what we want. We're actually going to go there and go through the process and do it all. And that's not just at one, that's at a few distilleries that we've already connected with and talked to.
So in those cases, when you do that kind of thing, is the final product just say Nashville Barrel Company, or is it Nashville Barrel Company with XYZ distillery?
So we're talking about doing the XYZ, and also whatever cook we do with them, aging half of that batch there where we cook it, and then half of the batch here with us, so we can release it at the same time and have your different comparisons. We can show people the differences of where this was cooked and aged compared to where it is down here with us.
How much of a difference do you think? Go ahead, Casey.
This is why you're the mad scientist, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of fun stuff because we There's things like that we've never seen anyone do, period.
Right.
We all know that stuff will taste different and the barrels can taste different side by side, but what about complete different environments? States away or miles or hundreds of miles. What's it taste like then? And we let them age for the same exact time and then compare it. So pretty excited about stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what's the difference in the taste profile? But it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, but you'll be able to tell based on the same exact barrel that then spent how many years, in Nashville, then how many years in, in Kentucky, or whatever it is. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
It should be pretty drastic. So it's going to be kind of a fun experiment to do. And as I said, James has a lot of kind of tricks up his sleeve that we're looking forward to sharing with everyone.
And it made total sense when James brought that idea up to me. And he's like, hey, think about the craft beer world. Those guys collaborate a lot of times. They work together. Right. You don't really see that in bourbon yet, And so I think that's one of James's big goals is kind of change that environment.
James, what are the biggest factors in the barrel? Like, what is it? Temperature? Is it like what are some of the biggest factors that kind of play into the taste?
Man, I wish I could tell you, to be honest. I mean, of course, who, what, when, and where, all with the barrel. But, I've done a few barrel picks to where I bought one barrel that was sitting right above another barrel. Same mash, same run, same everything, just different barrels. And they're just night and day. So honestly, I don't know. The barrel has a ton to play into this. I will say that, but also, where you keep it, what you do with it does as well.
And even just the where it is, if it's 10 feet or versus 8 feet, like it's just that's crazy.
We were all three just doing some fun stuff this past weekend, and we started down on the first floor. We tried a few things. We went up. Next thing you know, we're on the top floor, and you're looking 7, 8, 10 degrees difference per floor.
Wow.
You're walking up 5 floors, you're looking 40, 50 degrees difference.
Wow.
It just all depends. And, you got to think a barrel just sits there and marinates in that heat. Does all, I say marinates, but just sits there.
Right. Right.
And takes that in, it's going to affect what that does compared to the 8 degrees, one floor below.
Yeah, it's great. I was fortunate enough to do a barrel pick at Willett like a year ago, and we're walking the grounds with Drew there and going up to the warehouse, and we tried something that was on the second floor, and then we tried something that was on the top floor, which I think was like the 5th floor. You guys would probably know better than me what the top floor is.
Yes, sir.
5th. And we got up there, and somebody said, "Man, is it just me, or is it way hotter than up here?" And Drew gave us this look, and he said it nicer than what I'm going to say it, but it's basically like, none of you morons paid attention in science class, did you?
And it's all just to get
that
different.
Sounds like Drew.
Yeah, but to your point, and bring it back to Nashville Barrel Company a little bit, the group that I'm a part of, 21 Kings, we did 2 barrels out of this initial run, and they were barrels number 1 and 2. And it's unbelievable. They couldn't be more different. And it's the same make going into them. They were made at the same place. Theoretically, barrels 1 and 2 would be kept close to each other, I would assume. And they couldn't be more different. My buddy that was doing the pick with James that day calls me and he says, Jeremy, we got a problem. We have these 2 barrels that we really like. There was 1 or 2 that we knew initially we didn't want to buy, but there's these 2 left, and they're really different. And here I'll tell you how they each taste. And clearly, I'm sitting there this whole time thinking he's just trying to get around to the point where you can say, "Do you think it's cool if we buy both barrels?" Which I'm a sucker, and yes, we did. But they could not be more different. It's amazing that. There's no reason that I can scientifically tell you that 2 barrels that's I would think were made from the same make, same kinds of barrels, right next to each other for 7 freaking years, and they couldn't be more different. And that's really the cool part about doing a barrel pick.
you guys need to get Dr. Pat Heiss from Wilderness Trail on. He's an extremely intelligent guy, but once again, he'll let you know on a scientific level of some of the things that are happening. But definitely, let me know if you guys need that intro there. He's a great guy, and we're big fans of his. And if you guys want to really try to figure out what the barrel's doing, and at the tandem level and the different stuff, he'll be able to fill you in.
Yeah, the little lab there, we were drinking a Wilderness Trail rye pick. I don't know, Ari, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I got to go up there with a buddy and pick something. Man, that lab they got up there it looks like they could be curing cancer or something in there, not making whiskey. It's unbelievable what they have going on there.
Dude, smart guys, incredible, very generous guys too. It's they're big fans of Nashville Barrel Company, and we're big fans of theirs.
All right, so
what you saw there in what you saw there at Wilderness Trail is the exact reason why we will never distill our own stuff, because we can't outthink that.
Yeah, no, well said. All right, well, before we let you guys go, Texas or Nashville barbecue?
Carolina. Give me the vinegar.
There you go. Michael, James.
Oh, sorry, my fault.
Michael dropped off.
We lost him. James, you a barbecue fan?
Man, I love barbecue, and I hate saying this, but I've had the best barbecue out of Texas compared to Nashville.
Outstanding. We like you here, James.
Where in?
So I went down to Treaty Oak Distillery down and did the first ever cask strength gin barrel aged gins. We did that at the store I was previously at, and ended up going down, and they have barbecue on site, and it was just out of this world. Dripping Springs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not that far from here.
Yeah.
So before we let you guys go, if I want to learn more about Nashville Barrel Company, how do I do that?
So you can find us on Facebook.
It's a real hard thing to do.
Are you back, Mike?
Yeah. Hey, on Instagram, Nashville Barrel Co. On Facebook, Nashville Barrel Co. And on the web at nashvillebarrelco.com. Once again, James is going to give you his cell phone number, which is probably a bad mistake because I've got a feeling in a year he's going to have to change his phone number.
Appreciate you guys very much. This is just an absolute fantastic bottle of rye, so I would encourage everybody to go check it out. And if you can't get it on this run, just look for what Nashville Barrel Company is doing.
And all those folks that have been badgering me, how do I pick my own barrel of whiskey? Do what Michael just said. You're too late for the first run, but every day you don't get on their list, someone else is getting in line ahead of you. So get on that list, get down to Nashville, pick a barrel with these guys. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having us on, guys, and go Titans.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. It's been fun.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Y'all have a good one.